All right, let's talk about nanotechnology, this incredible field where we build materials atom by atom. It's the stuff of science fiction, right? But what if I told you the future of this high-tech world isn't just being built in sterile labs, but is actually hiding in something as simple as natural as a leaf? Yeah, let's dive into how it works.
Okay, so first things first. For all of its amazing potential, nanotechnology has kind of had this dirty secret, a shadow side that we don't always talk about.
And that problem is pretty straightforward. The traditional ways we make these powerful, incredibly tiny particles can actually be really, really bad for the planet. You gotta think of the old way of doing this as, well, a brute force approach. It relies on a cocktail of harsh, often toxic chemicals. It demands tons of energy, cranking up the heat and pressure. And not only is it super expensive, but it creates all this nasty waste that's a nightmare to dispose of. Worst of all, it can leave toxic junk behind on the very nanoparticles we want to use. Not ideal. But what if there was a better way? A cleaner, more elegant, smarter solution? Well, there is. And this is where our story gets really, really cool. It's called green synthesis, and the idea behind it is just brilliant. Instead of forcing the reaction with harsh industrial chemicals, we're basically handing the whole job over to nature's own tiny factories. We're letting them do the complex work for us, and guess what? They do it cleanly, efficiently, and for free. And let me tell you, nature's toolkit is absolutely massive. We can use extracts from plants, which are just packed with these powerful natural compounds called phytochemicals. Think of them as the plant's secret chemical weapon. We can even put microorganisms like bacteria and fungi to work. Or we can take agricultural waste, stuff we'd normally throw away, and turn it into a valuable resource. We're tapping into a biological assembly line that's been perfected over millions of years. So that's the big idea. But let's bring this down to earth with a real-world example. And for that, we're going to look at a surprisingly powerful tool that you might even have in your backyard, the humble papaya leaf. Just look at this. This one image tells the whole story. On the left, you've got simple, dried papaya leaf powder. Nothing fancy. And on the right, in that little vial, are cutting-edge copper oxide nanoparticles. It's an absolutely incredible journey from the garden to the lab. So how on earth do they do it? Believe it or not, the process is way more straightforward than you might think. First, you basically make a tea, an extract, from the papaya leaves to pull out all those good chemicals. Then you just mix that leaf tea with a simple copper salt solution. And that's when the magic happens. The natural chemicals in the leaf, that toolkit we talked about, they just get to work building the copper oxide nanoparticles right there in the beaker. The final step is just separating them out and drying them. It's an elegant one-pot recipe. And here it is. This is the payoff. On the left, a regular old papaya leaf. And on the right, these incredible, perfectly formed spherical nanoparticles, seen here under a super powerful microscope. It's just this stunning transformation from something so ordinary into something truly extraordinary. So you might be asking, how do scientists actually know it worked? I mean, they can't just cross their fingers and hope for the best, right? Well, they don't. They use a process called characterization. Think of it as their quality control toolkit, a bunch of high-tech methods they use to check their work and prove exactly what they've made. Now, let's look at the proof, the hard evidence. This graph might look a little complicated, but you don't need a PhD to get the main idea. See those sharp spikes? Each one is like a unique fingerprint, a definitive signature for CuO, which is just the chemical name for copper oxide. This is the hard data that says, yep, it didn't just work, it created a pure, perfectly structured nanomaterial. All right, so now that we've seen how this green method works, let's put it head-to-head with the old way of doing things, because this is where the difference becomes crystal clear. And really, the comparison couldn't be more dramatic. You've got the old school industrial approach on one side, and this new nature-powered method on the other. And when you actually break it down, the advantages for green synthesis are just overwhelming. I mean, look at this. Environmentally, it's a no-brainer. Clean and eco-friendly versus high pollution. Cost, it's way cheaper because you're using stuff that literally grows on trees. Energy, a huge win. It works at room temperature. No need to fire up giant furnaces. And maybe the most important part, the final product is actually better. It's more biocompatible, meaning it's safer for things like medical uses, because the nanoparticles come with a natural coating from the plant, not some nasty chemical residue. This is all super cool science, but let's talk about why it really matters. What can we actually do with all these green nanoparticles? What's the real-world impact? So first, you have to appreciate just how tiny these things are. We're talking 50 to 60 nanometers. Now, to give you some perspective, a single human hair is about 80,000 nanometers wide. So these particles are unimaginably small. And it's that tiny scale that gives them their superpowers.
And those superpowers unlock some huge potential across the board. I mean, think about it. In medicine, you could have targeted drug delivery that goes right after cancer cells while leaving healthy ones alone. In the environment, they could act like tiny super sponges, cleaning up pollution from our water. We're talking better batteries, more efficient solar panels, even a revolution in agriculture with things like nanofertilizers. The list just goes on and on.
So where does this leave us? Is this papaya-powered technology about to change everything overnight? Is the future definitely green?
Well, the promise is absolutely massive. There's no question about that. We have a cheaper, cleaner, and better way to make these advanced materials. But, we have to be realistic. There are still some big hurdles to overcome. The real challenge now is scaling up. Can we go from making a small amount in a lab to producing tons of this stuff for industry? And can we make sure every single batch is perfectly identical? That's what scientists are tackling right now.
And you can really feel the excitement from the researchers in this quote from the original paper. They make it clear this isn't just about being eco-friendly for the sake of it. No, this is about building a fundamentally better technology platform, one that can create nanomaterials that are just plain superior.
And that leaves us with one final, really powerful idea to think about. We so often look to our most complex machines and our biggest factories for the next great breakthrough. But what if the most advanced, most sophisticated factory in the universe has been right here the whole time, just hiding in plain sight, in something as simple and as elegant as a leaf?